Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. And today we're going to be drawing this Snail Girl. Is actually a redraw of an old piece that I did more than a year ago, so stick around to the end and I'll show you the original and kind of compare them. But today we're going to talk about something that I think is super duper important to talk about in art, and that is kind of, critiquing your own art and sort of where that becomes sort of negativity. And there's so much like self-doubt and negativity and self-destructive mindsets that can happen really easily if you're an artist. And I get a ton of comments and messages from people, where they just put themselves down. And I don't know if they do it intentionally, but it's there and it makes me really, really sad to see. But that being said, confidence is something that's really hard to build and it takes time. So, today just wanted to throw out some of the tips that I use that can sort of combat some of those negative mindsets that can come up, and also some ideas for how you can critique your art in a more positive way. So let's start by saying that every artist has flaws. Even the artists that you look up to and you think that they're amazing and they've been drawing for years and years and years, they have things they want to work on too. And, that's a really important thing to understand. But, if you're constantly just focusing on those bad things and those flaws, it becomes a habit. You're almost training your brain to be negative. And you can train your brain to be positive, on the flip side of that, which is hopefully what some of these tips will help you do. And if you do this, if you're doing this, your brain will automatically go straight to those bad things, and eventually it'll have a hard time even seeing the good things in your art. And this really starts breeding jealousy and all kinds of really just bad stuff. So if you're finding yourself getting caught in this cycle, you got to try to balance it out. And my first tip is to compliment yourself as much as you criticize. It's okay to point out the things that you didn't do so well or that you want to improve on, because that's how you're going to grow as an artist, and that's how you're going to improve your skill set. But also pick out something that you did really, really well or that you're proud of. Bad art happens, and making a crappy piece of art every so often is a good thing, because if you're failing, it means that you're pushing yourself outside your comfort zone, which is awesome. That's how you grow. So embrace crappy art. I actually have a separate sketchbook that I keep to draw without expectations, and I let myself be messy and I let myself fail. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, don't get bogged down and focus on one bad piece of art that you did. Look at your whole body of work and notice sort of the big trends and your skills and your shortcomings. And it's going to take some mindfulness to catch yourself and change your perspective. So an easy thing to start with is to just notice how you talk about your art. If you're finding yourself like making excuses or prefacing your statements by putting yourself down, like saying, I'm not very good, but here's something I just drew. I see that a lot. People will, you know, comment on one of my posts, or they'll post something and their caption will read, it's not very good, but check out this piece I just drew. Or they'll send me a DM of, maybe they drew something and they're like, well, it's not very good, but I'd like to know your opinion on that. Try to catch yourself on this and try to take out the negativity. Never feel like you need to explain yourself or make excuses for your skills. Like, where you are now is awesome. It's good to want to improve, but you don't need to put yourself down. You don't need to make excuses for, what you've accomplished in art. It should be a good thing. And if you do criticize your art, if you do critique your art, try to think of steps you can take to improve those things. Like, whatever you're picking out as a bad thing, what can you do to get better at that thing. Make it help you grow as an artist. So like for me right now, I'm kind of feeling like my poses are a little stiff and maybe slightly flat looking. I'm pretty happy with how this one turned out, but we're talking, bigger body of work, like the stuff I've been doing the last couple weeks or something. It's just felt a little flat. And so what I'm doing is I'm going back and I'm studying anatomy, back to the basics. And I'm also doing studies of artists who I feel really capture like a loose, casual flow in their poses. So like turn it into something that will help you move forward rather than something that kind of holds you back, if that makes sense. And my next tip is to not compare yourself to other people. And I know it's like super hard and we all do it and we all go through phases where we're just like looking at other people's art and like, why can't I do that? It totally happens to me. But instead, try to compare present you with past you. Past you could be a year ago, past you could be a week ago, past you could be a month ago. Try to compare your current pieces with your older pieces, because that'll give you a much better idea of how far you've come. And to be honest, like where you are now is so much further than where you started, or even, where you were a month ago. And you should be proud of that. And you should enjoy where you are now, because honestly, I mean, improving is good, and having that sort of dedication and drive to improve is good, but art's about having fun. And if you're not having fun, you got to kind of rethink things and try to get that enjoyment back in there. If you just are always, every time you draw, you just have this crappy feeling, and that's not really where you want to be. It should be a good thing. And when you compare yourself to other artists, they're really at a different place in their art journey than you are, or they could be on a different journey altogether. Like, so with social media, it's super easy to see other people's art now, but it kind of like distorts your perspective. So like other artists are posting their best art. They're posting the works they are most proud of. It's really a curated feed of things that they're most proud of. And you don't always see the failure drawings where they just messed up really badly, because a lot of people aren't going to post that. So what you end up doing is you're comparing the pieces that you're least proud of in your own body of work with the pieces that other artists are most proud of. And it's really almost comparing apples to oranges, and it just causes like a ton of negative mindsets and bad stuff. Okay, we're just about done with the drawing now, and what I'm actually going to do, I thought this would be fun, I'm going to take the original Snail Girl drawing, which I drew like a year and a half ago, something like that, and put it next to my new one, and talk you guys through exactly how I looked at the original, what I picked out that I did like, what I picked out that I didn't like, and sort of how I used that critique to create the new piece of work. Okay, so here are the two Snail Girls side by side, and let's look at the original so I can show you guys like what I liked about it, things I tried to carry over into the new piece, and sort of things I tried to improve with the new piece. So let's start with things I liked about this. Definitely color-wise, I really liked the hair color, and I really liked the way that the muted hair, the green of the hair, really made this bright neon yellow like super pop out. I was also really proud of the pose. I didn't really keep the pose in the new one, which I'll tell you guys about in a second, but for me back then, this was a pretty difficult pose. This part of her body was closer than this part of her body, and I'm still pretty proud that I was able to do this back then. Another thing that I really like, just the concept. Like, who thinks of snails with wings? Me today is slightly jealous of baby artist Chelsea's ideas. Like, I feel like I couldn't come up with something like this now. I don't know, but things that I am not so happy with this piece. Number one is these wings. um, like, this is just not possible from a biological standpoint, having the wings grow out of the top of the shell like that. You know, it just wouldn't happen with anatomy and how things work. It would be much more possible. I mean, I know it's a weird idea, but it would be much more possible for it to actually happen in real life if they were growing from the bottom out of the actual snail's body, which I did do in the new piece. Another thing, I actually didn't post this colored because I was so unhappy with this, how they blended. And this was back when I was first learning how to use Copic markers, and I wasn't very good at them. And, you know, I've learned a lot since then. I'm still not super great at blending, but I've definitely learned a lot since then. This was certainly a learning experience for me. I wasn't super happy with the girl's outfit. So, like, it definitely has a more fantasy vibe to it, you know, with the flying snail, but her outfit is really sort of like a schoolgirl type thing. And, you know, at this point in my art career, you know, like, pleated skirts were my go-to. So if I didn't know what to draw on a character for an outfit, I put them in a pleated skirt. Didn't matter what situation they were in, what kind of character they were, you know, anything, what kind of vibe I wanted the drawing to have. I just slapped a pleated skirt on there because I was comfortable with them. And I do think that it kind of clashes with the sort of fantasy element of the snail, having her be kind of just sort of normal looking, if that makes sense. Another thing that I wasn't super happy about is the shell itself, because, you know, the way the spiral and the shell is laid out is not really correct. I didn't look at any pictures of snails when I drew this. I pretty much just drew a circle and put a spiral on it and called it a day. So yeah, those are things that I wanted to improve on. And you can see with this piece, you know, I put the wings here at the bottom, and I think it works much better. Another thing I did is sort of played up the sort of snail element, so adding more snails, rather than just having one enormous snail taking over the thing. Outfit-wise, I decided to put her in a kimono instead of the schoolgirl outfit because I thought it worked more. It had more of a fantasy vibe, and I added little sort of swirls to the trim of her kimono to try to reflect the swirls of the snail shell. Again, I studied snail anatomy. It sounds weird, but I literally spent one whole night like just drawing pictures of snails that I found on Pinterest, and got a much better understanding for how they work, how their body moves, how the shells sit on their bodies, how their antennas move, stuff like that. And that definitely helped me a lot with this, and I think it gives it a much more realistic look. Another thing that I didn't mention that I wanted to improve on is the overall concept of the snail flying away with her. It kind of looks like it's abducting her. It looks like it's happily abducting her, and I actually did get some comments when I first posted this that it looked like the snail was abducting her, and I could totally see it. So I wanted it to be more of a friendship. So what I did is I had them on the ground. I drew a bunch more snails. You know, she's fondly holding that snail. She's reaching backwards and patting this snail on the belly, and it kind of gives it a much more, you know, mutual friendship between the two characters in the drawing, which I think works a lot better. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. I'm going to put all of the sort of materials that I used in the description box below, so if you want to know about the paper or the pencils or anything, just open the description. It's all going to be down there. And while you're there, you can hit the like button if you liked this video, and subscribe if you want to see more art videos in the future. So thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!